What is going on, Colts Nation? Well, after the Colts absolutely embarrassed themselves in New York, fans are done, and it appears former players are also sick and tired. Derek, where they're at right now, the state of the Colts, fans are fed up. Fans are just frankly fed up, and it appears analysts and former players are done with where this Colts culture is right now. Tune in. Let's listen to what Marlon Jackson has to say. Some real good comments from Marlon here. Let's listen to what he has to say about the current state of the Colts.
Yeah, you still are playing for pride in the fact that you are in the National Football League and that you have a resume each and every week where you have to put it on tape. And that right there today was not what anyone wants to see on tape. It's not going to keep you employed in the National Football League. Poor effort all the way around. And we can talk about coaching and decision making. We can talk about schematics, but it starts with want to, energy, effort, drive for success as a player. And I did not see that today. Defensively, putrid. I am disappointed as an analyst and as a former Indianapolis Colts with the effort that we saw today with so much opportunity on the line. And that's what we go out there, and that's the product that we put on display. This poor all the way around. These players should be ashamed of themselves representing the Indianapolis Colts in this city and this organization, because that is not the standard in which we play with at the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow, Derek, that's some pretty scathing comments there by Marlon Jackson. You know, obviously former Super Bowl champion, former player of the Colts that, obviously we know the big play Marlon had back in the AFC Championship game. But again, a former player, and I'm sure he's not going to be the only one, that comes out. We've already heard what Pat McAfee said about this organization, the current state of the culture. Now we have another one with Marlon Jackson coming out. Obviously, we know he's an analyst, so he talks about him. He's seen this team the entire season. And dude, Marlon is not happy. I mean, who is happy at this point? But man, such scathing comments from a guy who knows what a winning culture looks like. And clearly Marlon understands that right now, the current state of the Colts is not a winning culture. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. So many other guys from previous Colts teams now saying it, first, it started with Pat McAfee earlier this year talking about how, that's their locker room, not mine, that, my locker room cared about winning. Yours clearly doesn't, because you guys continue to find new ways to lose week in and week out. And, you got former Colts like Darius Butler chiming in on the action. Now you got Marlon Jackson, who, again, is a Super Bowl winner. Part of one of the last great Colts teams that we've seen, especially part of one of the best Colts defenses that we've ever seen, going on live television and saying that I'm disappointed and sad of the fact that of what I'm watching from this Colts team and this Colts defense, and that they should be ashamed of themselves, because that is not the standard to which they should be playing. And you know what's funny, Cody? Again, we've been messing with that standard word, the standard, because Ryan Kelly talked about after the Indianapolis Colts benched Anthony Richardson, is saying, that we have a standard that we're supposed to play by. This team don't look like that, right? That standard plays very well, or they don't all play to that standard at all times. So, again, it comes down to it that, again, this Colts team does not have a set standard goal of where they're supposed to be at. And if anyone is playing on that standard, I'd like to know, because it don't seem like they're playing up to standard to me.
No, not at all. I love that he's just calling out. Like, the players, they should be embarrassed. I mean, and the captains, like we talked about it in the recap, these captains were embarrassing today. They were missing tackles, blowing coverages. I mean, it was just a disaster, dude. Like, you couldn't stop anybody. You couldn't stop the worst team in football today on defense. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I'm glad that we're not the only ones saying it. Former players are saying it. And I'm like, if there's anything that would wake up Jim Irsay to the fact that your organization is at a very critical point right now, and whether you're going to keep fans around, whether you're going to keep faith, and this organization knows what the heck they're doing at all, this is the time where you need to make a decision. You need to make a decision here, Jim. Because if not, fans are going to continue to check out. You're going to continue to lose money, and it's just going to be a disaster. I mean, fans are not going to believe that you know what's best for this organization because we're going on a decade now, Derek, and we haven't won anything. We haven't won a thing. It's that bad. And I'm glad that Marlon's calling it out, man. I think it takes a lot, and it says a lot when you have multiple former players coming out against you and against the current state of your team. And Marlon Jackson, he seems like such an even-keeled guy, and it takes a lot, I feel like, for a guy like Marlon Jackson to come out and say what he said. I mean, really, honestly. But it's reached that point, Derek. It's reached kind of a crux here, right? We've reached a crossroads for where this Colts team should go. It's very clear right now the direction it's going is not the right one. So what's it going to take, man? I mean, the standard is obviously not where it needs to be. It's nowhere near where it needs to be. I mean, Marlon said it enough. Like, the standard's not what it used to be. Like, basically, that's what he said. Like, we had a standard. Their standard's clearly not the same as ours. And that's the difference between good teams and bad teams. That's the difference between perennial playoff teams and perennial losing teams like the Colts have been for the last half decade, if not longer. That's what it is, Derek.
Sadness. It's just frustration. Clearly, there is a major shift in where this team needs to be and where it is right now. And obviously, everyone else outside of the people in the room see it. So, there needs to be an intervention. We've said it on the regular podcast before, and we'll say it again. There needs to be a giant overhaul. It needs to be an overhaul of players. There needs to be an overhaul of coaches. Something has to change to make it to where this Colts team doesn't keep having to fall into the pitfalls that it keeps falling into every single year. It has to change.
An overhaul in the culture. I mean, also, that's a big thing. Like, the culture has to completely change with this team. Completely change. There's got to be a new standard. You got to have a standard where players are actually held accountable and your captains are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, where you're not just all talk, but you actually back it up on the field. The Colts haven't had that on defense pretty much all year. And this team hasn't had it in a long time, Derek. It's been that bad. So, yeah, man, it's an absolute problem right now. And Marlon Jackson, just the latest former Colts player to say something. I'm sure, like I said, there will be more coming out in the next couple days and weeks and months. But we'll see, man, what happens with this organization. But, guys, just wanted to react here real quick to Marlon Jackson's scathing comments on the Colts defense, the state of the Colts. It's a clear disaster right now. A lot has to change. The culture is shot, and I guess we'll see what happens. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on that notification bell, all that good stuff. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks, guys, and as always, go Colts.